Joining us now for more on the elections and what the GOP's victory means for business, big business, is Mort Zuckerman. He's chairman and CEO of Boston Properties and also the publisher of the New York Daily News. Mort, great to have you with us. I was actually surprised what happened in Nevada.
I think there were a lot of people who thought she might pull it out. She was ahead 3 or 4 points in the polls going into the election. But he's famous for his, what we call his ground game and the ability to deliver a lot of votes to the polls, and I think that was the difference that enabled him to pull it out.
Yeah, as he said, you know, he's a boxer, he's a fighter, and he fought it and won it out. Okay, and you're sort of saying, yeah. Anyway, okay, so your reaction.
Well, I mean, I think there is a real sense in this country that the Obama administration has failed. And I think in many terms it has failed. Whether they can turn this around or not, I don't know. I'm a little bit less optimistic than most. I think we face huge problems in the housing industry in America. Housing prices are still going down. We have something like 11 million homes with mortgages that exceed the value of the homes, another 8 million homes where the mortgage is between 95 and 100% of the value. You have a 5 to 10% drop.
Right.
And you have a lot of homes coming out of the foreclosure process and being dumped on the market. That's a huge, huge effect on the American economy and on the American consumer, because home equity is the largest asset on the balance sheet of the average American family.
Right. But although, you know, the criticism there is that American homeowners started to use their homes as ATM machines.
Without question, but they're not doing that now, and they haven't done that for the last year. If they lose whatever equity they have left, if you have another big wave of foreclosures coming on and into the market, those homes are going to be dumped on the market. If they break the market price, it doesn't affect only those people who, shall we say, have high mortgages. It affects everybody whose home is on the block. The foreclosure price is what determines the price of all the homes on the block. So that is going to have a real effect on consumer willingness to spend.
Okay, but what about the effect on you? What do you hope that the Republicans do now that they've got the House? What are they going to do to help you?
Well, I don't know that there is much. I do think, frankly, I really think we are going to have to go through a period of deleveraging. I don't know how you do that without a lot of pain. The ratio of household debt to household income is extraordinarily high, and we're going to have to get that down. We're talking about trillions of dollars of deleveraging. We're going to have to get that down
in an era now of people wanting tax cuts. Or tax cuts extended.
Oh, yeah, well, maybe. I don't happen to be in favor of tax cuts at this stage of the game. I think our fiscal problems are so severe.
But you want the Bush tax cuts extended?
No, I do not want the Bush tax cuts. I opposed them at the beginning. I supported Clinton when he raised those taxes. I opposed the tax cuts that Bush put in. Look, we have got to do something about the fiscal situation of this country. And frankly, most of the benefits of these tax cuts do go to the upper income people, and the upper income people are just going to have to find a way to contribute to this. Otherwise, they'll never get to a point where they can say to the rest of the country, hey, folks, we all have to tighten our belts.
But would you be okay if there was a compromise ironed out, let's say extended for a few years?
Look, as I say, we have got to find some way to deal with the fiscal crisis facing this country. We cannot afford to run $1.4 trillion deficits as far as the eye can see, and that's what it looks like. The basic fact here is that we have a very weak economy, and if we change this particular dimension of the tax cuts, in my judgment, it's not going to affect the economy.
How are the Republicans going to get you to that point that you want, Mort?
Well, I think we are going to have to cut, if not current expenditures, as you go forward, the Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, all of these things have got to be cut over the longer term so that there is some sense that there will be fiscal sanity in this country. It's not going to happen if it's just tax cuts. It's just not going to happen. We've got to have reduced spending and tax cuts. That has to be the big compromise between the Republicans and the Democrats.
Okay, we are back with Mort Zuckerman, and also once again, of course, our former New York Stock Exchange chairman and CEO Richard Grasso for the hour. And gentlemen, just humor me for a moment, because I had our producers.
Just for one moment?
Yeah, you know, a little more than one moment. I had our producers put together some faces of people to watch that, you know, we've been watching in the news and how they relate to the elections here. Gordon Brown, remember him? Oh, there. Barack Obama. Gordon Brown, remember him?
Yeah.
Well, he lost the support of his party lost the support of the public, and then he had to step down. Then you've got Nicolas Sarkozy, who is right now battling unions and seeing protests all across his country. His center-right party has also lost ground. Then you had Kevin Rudd in Australia, who had to step down because he implemented things that were unpopular. Surprise, surprise. New taxes, right? Climate legislation. And the reason why I bring these guys up is that then you've got President Obama, who overnight has seen the public bash his party. And that is raising questions about whether or not he's going to be a one-term president or not.
16 years ago, 1994, right, the Democrats lost control of the House, and 2 years later, Bill Clinton was reelected. So I think what we really should look at is how Barack Obama responds to the message of yesterday's electoral vote.
So you want him to go back to the middle?
Yeah, but if you look at those other political leaders, take Sarkozy. Why did Sarkozy have to contend with several million people going to the streets? Because he wanted to raise the retirement age for Social Security from 60 to 62. I mean, when you think about how deeply embedded those social welfare programs are, but they're unaffordable. We are in the same situation.
He did the right thing.
Yes, he did the right thing. At least he was fighting for the right things. But what we have had here in this country, frankly, is a health care program that most of the country did not like. It has if the Democrats thought this was going to be their golden pathway to re-election, it's gone completely the other way. The country did not want to deal with extending health coverage as much as they wanted to deal with getting health care costs under control. They didn't get that. So what we got was another big, huge government program without the means to pay for it. And I think that's what distressed the country.
But we had Alan Patrick on yesterday who said, look, health care is going to cost, but in the end, it is a social benefit to this country to cover every single American with health care.
Well, nobody disagrees with that. But the issue is, at some point, you've got to pay for these things. And how are we going to do that? There are so many things that should have been done to the health care program to bring health care costs under control. They didn't do that, because those were the politically difficult things to do. Okay.
Was that one of the things, Mort, you were telling me that you feel alienated from the White House?
Yes, of course. I mean, and I wrote about it extensively. And you look at the polls, 34% of the country now approves of health care. There's a reason for that. They understand what this is about. And by the way, what the country wanted the administration to focus on was the economy and jobs, not a health care program that felt more like a victory for Obama or a victory for the Democrats, but not a victory for the American people.
Well, not to pile on, but if you look at the health care bill and read it end to end, one of the great questions you get is why a 3.8% national sales tax on real estate? Think about that.
Right.
And it's not on profits on real estate. It's on the sale of real estate. One of the most ailing parts of our economy, we lop a tax on. I mean, that just shows what bad policy the bill was.
It's misguided. Okay, so do you want health care rolled back?
I want it reformed to a level where we try to bring in all Americans, but we do it with a cost consciousness.
Okay. Mort, you want it rolled back?
Yeah, no, I don't want to roll back. I supported health care reform, but this wasn't health care reform as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so you want the reform as well. You want intelligent reform.
That's right. I mean, we didn't get doctors' fees under control. We didn't get, fee-for-services under control.
We didn't get litigation under control.
Tort liability was taken off the table.
Tort reform,
before he even brought it there, because the trial lawyers are such a big contributor to the Democratic Party.
Thanks, Mort. We've got Mort Zuckerman back with us. I didn't want to cut you off beforehand, so I wanted to, you were nice enough to stay for a few more minutes, and also Dick Grasso here as well. Now, look, the investors we've seen so far with equity futures, just an indication there, they're not quite sure how to take what happened last night.
Well, I mean, in one sense, there is going to be a real assessment now as to what we can do to turn around this economy, because the economy is really in trouble. I do think that the unemployment numbers aren't going to get much better. I do think we're really faced with the continued erosion of home prices, which has major possible negative consequences for the economy.
Right.
I don't know what we're going to get in the way through the Congress in the way of additional stimulus programs. So we are in for a real long haul here, because any kind of recession that was started by a financial crisis lasts much longer than a normal recession, and we're halfway through it at best.
Yep, exactly. The Fed is the next thing to watch. What do you make?
Yeah.
The Fed clearly this afternoon is going to give an indication of what they're willing to do to stimulate the economy. But I think what the market is going to want to hear from the president and from the new leadership in the House is how they will approach coming to the center. And again, don't listen to what they say. watch what they do. And I think very importantly, will this president bring in great business leaders to reformulate an economic game plan?
Like Mort.
Exactly.
Well, let me just talk about the Fed for a second. The Fed is definitely going to engage in some kind of quantitative easing. This is Bernanke's great contribution, frankly, to the problems we've had over the last year or so.
And you think it's the right thing?
Well, I think it's the right thing. I don't think it's going to be very effective. We have liquidity all through the financial system. The financial institute, the banks aren't lending, companies aren't investing, people are trying to save because everybody's in the process of deleveraging and nobody has confidence in where this economy is going. So the real question is, will it work with interest rates as low as they are? They're not going to lower interest rates. I mean, it's not going to, you can't go to below zero. So the real question is how effective it is going to be. And we have,
and people are saying it's not going to be very effective.
No, but then what do we do for this economy? That's the issue. This is very good. I'm totally in favor of it, but it isn't going to solve our economic problems.
Tax policy, I think, is really going to be front and center. And extending the Bush tax cuts, I think, are important because you don't raise taxes for anyone in a time of economic.
Like it.
Well, I know, but he'll live with it for a short period of time.
But you know what? You're in a minority.
Far more important. I think far more important, Betty, than the Bush tax cuts would be a payroll tax holiday. Okay, and stimulating employers to re-employ people who are either underemployed or unemployed at this point, much more important for this economy. How do you grow? You bring people in. You identify opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much.